Hello, good men, women, sons, and daughters. This is Kat Espinda with One New Word, and welcome to my show. Today, for a second interview, I've got Kerry Cassidy, and I'm really excited to have her back. She's lived a very, very interesting life. She's investigated UFOs, the paranormal, and the secret space program. And just with all the Black Project whistleblowers, a lot of the things that have gone on in the background, and people are starting to wake up to the fact that this world is not as they have projected it to be. Because everything's casting, they show us what they want us to believe over the television. In the meantime, there's a lot of disinformation and psyops that have gone out into the ethers, and we're starting to put the pieces together. And people like Kerry, who've been fighting and exposing all of this in the, on the ground. And it's so important right now that we are standing in the truth. Whatever the truth is, we need to stand in it. And we're finding out that what they have told us is just a bunch of malarkey. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to bring Kerry on right now. Let me get you on here. And here we are. Hey, Kerry, how are you doing today? And thank you so much for being on my show again.
Sure. Well, it was fun the last time, so it's all good. Yeah, I'm doing good. I just moved, so that changed my life a little bit, but basically just very, very busy right now. So I don't know. I'm finishing editing a book with the help of an editor, and so that's a whole project in itself. And then I'm doing my
Wow.
regular work every day, and I'm also trying to produce a movie, which is still speculative, but might actually go somewhere. So,
Well, that would be awesome with your experience in Hollywood and all of that knowledge that you're going to bring to it. I'd be want to be one of the first ones to see it. But Why don't you tell us what's been going on? What is on your radar right now? When I messaged you earlier, you said I'm working. What's Kerry Cassidy working on?
well, I just wrote a new article in Substack, so you can actually see that, and I could get the link for you.
Yeah.
I put it out there, and we could, I could just click over there if you're interested to take a look. I
Yes.
am looking at disclosure and how it's rolling out or not rolling out, actually, and so I'm finding that is a real mixed bag, and there's a very interesting group of videos that are starting to come out. Some of them are repeating everything that we've done in Camelot and bringing it out as if it's new, which is
Oh,
very frustrating
I
because I
bet.
have whistleblowers who have risked their lives, their families' lives, to come out over the last 20 years with Camelot, and they have impeccable references and so on. So we know they're the real thing. And they're
Right.
very famous at this point, a lot of these whistleblowers. But now we're getting a sort of a new slew of them, and some with questionable backgrounds, some who tell part of the truth and not the rest of it. So there's kind of a weird, I don't know, dichotomy going on with the whole disclosure situation. And then I stumbled on this wonderful 4 hour, it's really an onslaught, sort of confession, even of what's a person called Richard Doty, who was an AF Air Force OSI agent for, I guess, most of his career. And that's like a number of years, maybe even 20, maybe more, that was also interfacing with various intelligence agencies and so on. So he's released this 4 hour video on YouTube, and I have linked it. Actually, do you mind if I share my screen? Because I found the Substack that I'm referring to. That way, people can
Yes.
see where it is. But it's also linked on the front page of my website, projectcamelotportal.com. You'll
Great.
just see a link for Substack, and you can go over there. And I've also actually I might have put it on my front page as well, so of my website, so you might also go there. Anyway, it's about he's not only talking and revealing his past and what he's really been part of, I mean, he goes through what's known as the aviary. A lot of us who've been in the sort of business, whatever you want to call this sector, for, like I have for 20 years, and some are much older and have been longer in it, but they know these names like Richard Doty. And I met Richard Doty back in the day, actually in the early days of Project Camelot. He wanted to meet us, so he came over to my place and sort of interviewed us, if you'd like to, call it that, but not for the record, but just for the purposes of, I guess, the Air Force. I don't know. But anyway, he's a notorious character because he was involved in one of the most notorious cases was the Paul Benowitz case. And that takes place in New Mexico, where Paul Benowitz was in essence, a scientist and a whistleblower. But he started to photograph what was going on. He lived in New Mexico, up on the mountain in Dulce area, and he was seeing the comings and goings of craft. They tried to convince him he was crazy, and he eventually died. I don't know if he really committed suicide or what, but it's an old story. You probably never heard of it, but this is the kind of thing that he was involved in. So I'm just drawing attention to this sort of, it's almost a confession, as I say. He's trying to tell you, he doesn't expose it all, okay? A kind of guy like this is never going to tell you the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But he is trying. And so I give him credit for that. And then there's another video that's right under that is also a really good disclosure effort. I mean, both of these are really good, solid disclosure efforts, in my view. Okay. Not to say they're telling you everything. They never will, and they never do. But much better than what's out there where people are talking a lot, but saying very little. These guys are hands-on. They have a past, they have a history, and they've been involved. So just drawing your attention to this Substack article that I have. And I'm not really, I call it an article, but it's a posting of both those videos and a couple comments on them. And I post them on my Telegram as well. And if you want to know what I'm doing, you should really go to my Telegram. That's the best place to sort of tap into what I'm doing on a daily basis. Literally, I make commentary there and post all the news articles I think are worth seeing. Doesn't mean I agree with them. I post my own videos there. I post all kinds of comments and articles and so on. So anyway, that's you want to know what I'm working on. That's what I've been working on, is looking at who's disclosing what, how authentic is it. I also noticed that recently 107 has, and I haven't researched this thoroughly, but I was told by a friend that he's actually backtracking off of his original disclosures about chemtrails and suddenly saying, oh, there's nothing to see here. And that's a lie. And we already have, not only but his testimony, which is like years old, and even is in the past year, he repeated it, but suddenly he must have gotten the orders to back off that story. And that's concerning to me, because with this disclosure, what's happening with these people is they're actually flip-flopping. And in some cases, they're changing their story because it's convenient, because they want, I guess, eyeballs on their videos or whatever. And then there's a lot of people who are coming late to the game, newbies that are out there, and they have them as guests, but they really don't know when the person is lying to their face because they haven't done their real research. Right. With me, I've been into this, very deep for 20 years. It's really a 24/7 occupation. And so I have a lot of familiarity, you might say, with the usual suspects, as well as the newbies out there. I will reference a lot of things like the Jake Barber story. So there's some questionable things there. There's some very interesting things there, but, I can go into case by case. But what I'm saying, and we also have to look at, because you're in Australia, right? So, that famous...
I'm in Washington State.
What?
Washington State. in
I thought you
California,
were in
Washington.
Australia. I don't know why. That's
I
why I thought it was complete time difference. Whatever. I don't know where I
know. No, it's okay. I'm in
I
Washington
think
State.
I might have got your organization mixed up with another one that came around at the same time to interview me.
It could
But
be,
sorry
but no
about that.
worries.
Anyway, well, in Australia, there's a famous journalist. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but everyone knows him, Coulthart. So Ross Coulthart is, he's a well-meaning guy. For some reason, the powers that be like him, so they've made him into a major journalist that is reporting on disclosure, as you may know.
Hmm.
The trouble is that Ross himself is not very well schooled, going back like I am 20 years. And
Right,
neither is 107 for the matter. I mean, he has not because he wasn't around, but because he wasn't concentrating on this type stuff. If you
right.
don't really get in deep and stay in deep, then a lot of it just washes over you. You don't know who's who and what's what. So because I have this certain, group of witnesses over 20 years time and their testimonies, and they all weave together, they interrelate. And so there's also Catherine Austin Fitts right now. She's a financial pundit for a long time. She's tends to be focused more on the local scene, but she was the housing secretary under, God, I forget who it was, Bush or Reagan, one of these people. And then she went off on her own and she started getting knowledgeable about the secret space program and that. But it was actually recently, from my point of view, fairly recently, which was around 2010, 2009. And it was myself who started interviewing her along those lines and educating her in certain ways, bringing my information to her, right? And
Hmm.
also Rich Dolan and also, oh God, Joseph Farrell. So the three of us sort of, acquainted her, let's say, with a lot of the data out there and sent her down the rabbit hole in certain directions and so on and so forth. So now there's a situation that what happened that 107 started saying that, oh, she's been researching this for 35 years. No, she hasn't. I know for a fact when I first interviewed her, she was scared to death to talk about the secret space program.
Ah,
And she wouldn't even go there. And even now, she doesn't use the name. She calls it a breakaway civilization, but which is also a fair name for it. But that's actually from Richard Dolan. That's his terminology. So, I'm just saying that people, they build their careers on the backs of other people.
hmm.
And my career is certainly, built on all the whistleblower testimony I gathered. But the thing is that I try to give credit where credit is due. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And
Sure.
so when people start getting credit for other people's work, it's just wrong, in my view. And what we're having is this, again, this is my point of view, that we're seeing a rehash of a lot of the past. They want to cover up the real testimony. They want to cover up a lot of the real whistleblower testimony because a lot of it is quite damning, to be honest. And I can get into all the reasons why and so on and so forth. But I know I'm going on for a while. But anyway, that's in answer to your question. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at how disclosure is behaving, how people are taking it, how they're lying and banding information back and forth that is absolutely wrong, getting it wrong, getting their details wrong, and also taking credit for something that they didn't discover whatsoever. So this is a problem.
Yeah, I have noticed in the last probably 3 years or so, upcoming names that popped out of nowhere, started with very low subscriber amounts, and now they've got hundreds of thousands of viewers with claims that they, are talking to people that are not from here. And a lot of it is just like you said, it's a lot of talking, but there's really no proof behind anything that they're saying. And so you've got a big following of these people who are following and just taking everything, all their words as gospel and as the truth. And I even have a problem with that because I'm also a whistleblower and I've gotten into the trenches and have stood up against the corrupt court systems, and I see all of that going on. And it does get frustrating when you've got these people that are just popping up new, and I'm newer myself.
Sure.
And so I want to always make sure that I give credit where credit is due to the decades of people who've been fighting against the mortgage fraud, for instance. But in your situation, it's the space community. Mm-hmm. And again, you've got real, authentic evidence. What do you say about those people? So to wrap that all up, the ones that are out there that are bigger in name but newer on the scene, I mean, what are your thoughts about that specifically?
Well, I first of all, didn't I interviewed you at one point, didn't I?
No, I've only interviewed you just one time.
Oh, well, then I should, because if you're a whistleblower, I didn't know what you're whistleblowing about, but
it's mortgage. Mine is mortgage fraud, bank fraud, the Babylonian magic that they use to create something out of nothing, which is what they do.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. And, I go into everything under the sun. I mean, there's no limits to the conspiracies out there as far as I'm concerned. And so if you have, maybe we should arrange to do that.
Yeah.
But at any rate, in answer to your question, I mean, what do you mean? Because like I just explained kind of my point of view, but
yeah,
what was the exact question? Because I got distracted when you said you were a whistleblower.
I'm sorry, maybe let me articulate that better. Do you think that these people are authentic? Do you think that their stories are authentic, or do you see gaps in their stories based on your knowledge, with them being new?
Well, we're in and this has been true for a while actually now, that I'm not going to name names, but certain people have come along with stories and they're using the 20 years and back excuse, whatever you want to call it. Now, I'm not saying that 20 years and back isn't legitimate. I'm just saying that we can't track that. Okay. All you can do is intuit whether it's true or not. Mm-hmm. And whether their sort of testimony stands the test of time, that whether their testimony also stands up against whistleblowers who have come before them, who have laid out certain things like, what is Mars like? Is there blue sky on Mars, for example? Things that Richard Hoagland was saying back in the day to me and on camera, okay, which we know. But a lot of Mars people, supposed Mars, whistleblowers, never mention that. Okay, so there's little telltale signs where you can kind of tell the person might have some knowledge of what they're talking about. They may even have some personal like dreams and visions, or it could be, a trauma-based recall that is a therapist helped them with, a reverse aging or whatever, a therapist. Looking at their background or something, and it gets information from them. So what I'm trying to say is it's not, in my view, I don't try to be judgmental, but I do look for what you might call red herrings, where the person is saying something that doesn't jive, that doesn't make sense in the whole, because the one thing about having a lot of whistleblowers over a 20-year period is that it's kind of like you could call it a puzzle, and when you're putting in the puzzle pieces, then you get a piece that doesn't fit the puzzle and it doesn't fit in anywhere. Is it true? Is it false? Is it partially true and partially false? You know what I'm saying? So this is the kind of thing we have to think about. There's a lot of deception going on. People also, they tend to remember things the way they want to remember them as opposed to the way they really happened. So, and this has always been true, like abductees have a tendency to remember certain things and not others. Okay. I recently interviewed Kathleen Martin. She's a wonderful investigator, and she's been investigating for I don't know if it's 20 years, but a long, long time. And she's also a relative of the Betty and Barney Hill story. That's like a really famous UFO abduction story. You might have heard of it.
I have, yes.
Yeah. So I just did an interview with her, fairly in depth, and it was really interesting to me. I get downloads. So I was getting downloaded some information that the Air Force was a lot more active in that abduction than anyone has sort of claimed.
Hmm.
And so I don't know if there's a body of people that might have that theory as well. I don't really, I haven't followed it for years or any of that. But I can tell you that generally speaking, her frame of reference is not that. Okay. It's that it's strictly ETs and what they did to Barney and Betty Hill and changed their lives and so on and so forth. So it's, when you can put two and two together, because you have other reference points, it really helps to evaluate any set of data. And in my case, I have so many reference points from the past that I could bring to bear on any piece of information that's currently coming forward. And I can at least know if it's been out there already, if the person's trying to claim ownership or, that they thought of it or they created it, that kind of thing. And then, other things, some self-deception, that might be going along with things. And then connections to the military industrial intelligence complex, where a whistleblower, supposed whistleblower, is actually being financed and put forward by like AFIOSI,
Right.
AFOSI, Air Force OSI. So we're talking about agencies are very sort of involved in the disclosure waters, so to speak. And what, to his credit, Richard Doty is claiming is that they're all at loggerheads. They're all seeing it from a different point of view. Some of them want it. Some of them only want a tiny bit. Some want more. Lou Elizondo is a perfect example. Someone who, in theory, wants to tell the truth, but he can't because he signed so many agreements, non-disclosure agreements. So he's disclosing what he can, but and now I think Richard Doty might be out from under some of his agreements that he made. So he might be at liberty to say a little more than, let's say, Lou Elizondo, who only, in the last year or two got out of his working relationship, let's say, with certain organizations. So it's a cornucopia of a huge amount of, disinfo, good info, mixed all together and rechurn from the past, right?
Yeah.
So that's and it's a challenge for all of us, not just, not just those of us who have a background in this world, but this is the name of the game right now. Okay. UFOs, the technology they represent, and the fact that they represent that we are not alone in the multiverse. And we've been interacting even through our agencies and through our government, and through the military in particular, for decades, and they've been lying about it. This is just a huge story, okay? This is the biggest story on the planet right now, as far as I'm concerned. So we can't just ignore it. You can't say, oh, it doesn't concern me, because it does. Everything we do, everything we say, everything that's going into our the genetic re-engineering using COVID and mRNA vaccines and all this kind of nonsense to change our genome is also coming from the alien side that people don't realize. So aliens are involved in re-engineering our genome. And most people don't put those things together. They don't know how, because they don't have the background to do so.
Yeah. It really just blows me away. What you're saying 5 years ago, I would have been like, what is going on in the world? And, it takes some time for the man and woman, to take in this kind of information. But it really is mind blowing. And what you're talking about with this military operation going on in the background, we have been communicating for decades and probably a lot longer, than even that. That you hear about this prime directive, a prime directive where, they the are, those who are helping us can't necessarily just intervene against us. That we, the people, need to learn and to rise up. And I was just wondering, what are your feelings about that and the prime directive?
Well, at least to my knowledge and what I have gone through in all these years is sometime around 2012 that actually has gone by the wayside. So there's a certain point at which humanity is dealing with alien races and sort of the gloves are off. There is no prime directive anymore per se. Now, there are
Okay.
some general sort of ways that civilizations, you might say, that are more modern, more ahead of the times than we are, than Earth, who come into contact with us, are supposed to behave in certain ways. And what we call the good ETs, for example, and in theory, the good AIs, because there are alien AIs too, which we are also people need to be aware of, and they're not. So they're only talking about human-made AIs, which is actually only the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And so what we're talking about is there are certain, it's kind of like you could think of customs or things that are just social etiquette in terms of alien interaction. I know it sounds kind of funny to put the two together, but it's real. So there is this idea that if you're a civilization that is whatever you want to call it, whether you want to talk in Michio Kaku's terms, type 1, type 2, and type 3, that kind of stuff, or whatever it happens to be, that they're supposed to conduct themselves in a certain way, and they don't directly intervene necessarily in our business, but
Mm-hmm.
they will influence individuals who then try to influence the rest of the world, this
Mm-hmm.
world. So in one way, you could say, okay, well, they're kind of conducting themselves in an honorable way by not trying to get in and bully us around. But at the same time, there is a suggestion that some of the people out there, they have an alien agenda, even though they're human.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's worth knowing, not to take them at face value necessarily, not to be to let your guard down, and don't let somebody, who is lying to the public, whether he's completely deceived and mind controlled, which is highly possible, or whether he is partially knowingly lying. Stephen Greer is always telling people that all aliens are supposed to be benign or good, okay?
Mm.
Which is absolutely a lie.
Yeah.
Now, why does that matter so much? It matters because if you're told, for example, you have family, you have children, they go out on the streets, they play in the streets at night, they go on walks at night, they get abducted, whatever it is. You don't know what's really happening to your child. Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to go and live in la la land and think that, oh, that's just fine, my child has disappeared for a few days, the aliens took him. And then they come back completely changed and maybe injured or maybe not, or exposed to radiation or whatever it happens to be, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, in other words, we're looking at a very different landscape. Not that the landscape hasn't been this way. It's been this way actually now for going on since you could, if you want to just go to Roswell, but you can go back to the 1930s and before. We, humanity, and really going back to Egypt, the time of Egypt, the time of Atlantis, we have been dealing with alien races on this planet going back eons and eons. They only keep disclosure from people so they don't realize the history that all of us have dealing with alien races. And some are good and some are not. Some have bad intentions. Some want to rule over us, turn us into slaves, a slave society like the reptilians want us to be, and so on. And you need to be on guard for that. Okay. So, this lying to humanity right now, all of these agencies, all of the liars out there that are trying to tell you that there are no that you're not being what can I say, that alien interaction with Earth is not real. Anybody who tells you that, what they're doing in essence, they're lying to you, but they're also putting you and your children in danger, because
Sure.
you will be going through your life thinking, oh, wow, that's nothing to worry about. I don't have to look after my kids in that way, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's human predators, but what about alien predators? I mean, hello. Well, go south of the border and ask them that. Okay. Because
Yeah.
alien abductions was given a carte blanche to abduct, Native Americans, and not just that, but Mexicans, South American, Latin American. That is a really hotbed where the United States government actually encouraged aliens to go down, excuse me, and abduct them.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, we're starting also to learn, all of us who went through the Rockefeller brainwashing centers learned that we have 7 continents. And, we're starting to learn that there's probably a lot more people, maybe even a lot more continents, I don't know, a lot more out there than they let us see. And if I wanted to try to prove it, I mean, what am I going to do? Go take a chartered, controlled Alaska Airlines flight to the corner of the Earth to see if it exists, or fly up into the sky to see if it's round or flat. And you got all these things that are going on like that, and it's just, I don't know. It's what do you say about this world? Is it a lot bigger than we were told?
I think there are very possibly hidden lands. I don't go by the flat Earth theory,
Hmm.
but I understand kind of where it's coming from, which I've explained this in previous shows. But the bottom line is that we have been in a 3D kind of world, and we're moving into 4D. And 4D is seen as a flat, endless plane. So the people that are extremely materialistic are seeing things in that term. Now, if you look at the Voyager satellite, even the Voyager satellite is starting to flash back pictures, seeing through into another dimension. Well, I
Mm.
have been aware of dimensions, and people that are fairly spiritual may know about other dimensions. But when you're really a psychic intuitive, dimensions are real. So I don't need the Voyager satellite to tell me that there are other dimensions. But those scientists do need that. And now they're proving it. Okay. And Einstein said that. He actually said there was a 5th dimension, but there's actually said to be at least 15. But at any rate, this idea is that, there are hidden realities and people have limited knowledge. And if they don't work, it's my job to actually learn this stuff. Okay. But I understand if people are just doing some, 9 to 5 boring job, they may not pay attention to
Yep.
new thought and new ideas that are out in our milieu around them. But
Hmm.
it is changing. The world is changing. The world consciousness. It's all about consciousness. So as consciousness rises, it doesn't matter if, like, I don't know, the house next door are just couch potatoes watching, football or something.
Hmm.
Um, not to
Right.
put down that sport or anything, but you know what I'm saying. In other words, we're talking about the consciousness of our minds, even our whole bodies, but our minds projecting out scalar waves that do impact other humans in our midst, animals, plants. We're all in it together. And
Mm-hmm.
so these people, whether they know it or not, will be waking up slowly and their dreams and their visions. And suddenly they may have even an abduction experience, or they may meet not just an abduction, but just, some kind of contact thing where they meet an alien, or they meet a strange, kind of reality, or they find themselves, because when you leave your body, when you sleep, you go into, the astral, you can travel into other dimensions. You can
Mm-hmm.
also interact with beings from those dimensions. So it's just widening the playing field a huge amount, so that people that like to walk around and say, oh, that's not real, remote viewing's not real. I mean, this is all being validated right now. Everything that
Yeah.
we've said in Project Camelot for the last 20 years has turned out to be true, pretty much. I mean, across the board. And that means all of reality is nothing like what they were trying to sell you, and still are trying to sell you in schools and churches and, on television. The
Mm-hmm.
thing about television and movies, as far as I'm concerned, is they also tried to tell you about these other realities.
Mm-hmm.
They were one of the few places that tried to do that. Of course, authors have always been doing that too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, a lot of times they're telling you what reality is. And if it's on the television or in Hollywood, it's already been invented. It's not like it's a new, oh, wow, this is like, back in Star Trek days, right? All the holodeck and the ability to heal with their little machine. I mean, that stuff's been around for a long, long time. It's just that we don't get to see it. We don't get to experience it. And now the average age of a man and woman in America is 79 years old. And when you look back, people lived hundreds and hundreds of years, and they've done everything they can to make us sick, spray us, inject us. We bathe in poison, eat poison, drink poison. It's insane. Yet we've just accepted it because of these programs that we've been, spoon fed. And so I love that you are diving into things where people can't be just spoon fed. They're going to have to do their own research and search. And also, like you said, our intuition is so important. What resonates, because the truth resonates. I get chicken skin. I get goosebumps when I start hearing the truth. It's like that truth sonar that we have.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
yes. So I'm going to go probably start wrapping it up here. However, I would love for you to just share any last message about, where you see disclosure going. You can take your time, but where do you see this going? So many people are hopeful that we're going to be seeing real in optical out in the open deeps. What do you see?
I don't know, I think it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the X-Files, the truth is out there. It's
Right.
literally right outside your door. It's there every single day. But it's really interesting how people like miss it because they have blinders on, or because they have decided the universe is a certain way. They went to school and someone gave them a book and told them to memorize that book. That's not even learning, but memorize the book,
Yeah.
or memorize the Bible, or whatever the hell they want to memorize. And then they basically wear those blinders when they look at the world. And
Right.
so you could put the truth right in front of them pretty much, which actually is because, first of all, we are aliens. We are related to all the aliens, a lot of them. We have been genetically messed with over time. And for that information, the Ashiana Dean, her books, the Voyager books, there's two of them. They
Yes.
are dictated by what are called the Guardian races to her, in essence. So it's not her that's saying it, it's these guardian races that have explained our history going back even millions of years. And it's a galactic history. All right. So this is not the first time we've been, visited by aliens. I mean, people
Right.
just have this completely different, wrong ended view of reality. But they are taught to be, to actually block out anything that they don't they're not supposed to listen to. Especially religion is one of the biggest problems with the way people view the world, in my view. It is telling you what to believe and what not to believe, that sort of thing. And
Yep.
the other thing is education. Okay. So the schools, which also are influenced in a big way by the Jesuits, for example, who got very involved in education and
Mm-hmm.
seeing that that was the way to rule the world. If you can control minds, and this is mind control, advertising is mind control. I mean, anything that's out there that you are basically being bathed with in a repetitive way is a form of mind control.
Mm.
And so, and government is mind control. So government telling you, do this, don't do that, believe this, don't believe that. And then the media, major mind control, right? So the media is trying to convince you that, oh, those people are conspiracy theorists. I had somebody call me that and say, oh, I didn't know it was a bad term. Like they don't realize that it's insulting because actually the CIA made it that way
Mm-hmm.
going back to the 1950s, but especially during the Kennedy assassination. All the people that were seeing conspiracies around the death of John F. Kennedy started to be called conspiracy theorists in a derogatory way. And that's where the term got popularized. And the CIA instrumentally and on record did that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not an imaginary thing going on here. This is mind control. Okay. It's taking a couple words and it's basically trying to convince you not to be suspicious when you see clues everywhere. As you said, you have noticed, you became sort of a whistleblower regarding the mortgage or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the kind of thing where you're told not to look deeper, not to see beyond the surface. 107 right. Saying, okay, don't worry about the chemtrails. There's nothing there when we know damn well there is. See, now people can't be lied to as easily. Now people are doing their research and there are testimonies, tons of testimonies documenting this stuff. There are even pilots that are being, given testimony that the, chemtrails, what's in the chemtrails. Clifford Carnicom, for those of you who are interested, is one of the chief scientists, him and his group. It's called Clifford Carnicom. It's kind of like it's spelled like it sounds, but he had an organization. I don't know if they're still in operation. I assume they are. That basically scientifically years ago, I'm talking, I don't know, 10 years ago or more, scientifically analyzed the particulates from the chemtrails and documented it as a fact. Barium and aluminum and this and that. It's just amazing, to say nothing about nanographene oxide, which is also in the jabs. Yeah. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, you have it, either you're going to be spoon-fed lies or a mixture of lies and truth, if that's what you prefer, or you can actually open your mind and realize, that you just need to take the blinders off and start seeing for real. And question everything. That's what I say.
Yes, absolutely. Ask questions until you get to the truth. And we've been just taught this is the truth, and if you don't like it, then you get an F.
Right.
Okay. Well, and then that's literally, and then they make you feel bad about it. You're a little conspiracy theorist with a dunk, what do they call it, a dunce hat on in school, and you're made to feel stupid, to sit in the corner while the children look at you and laugh. Even though a lot of these children are seeing that this is bullshit, because that's what I did when I was in school. I could see it was all bullshit, and I was like, oh gosh, so now we're beginning to see. Kerry, remind us for my audience, where can people find your website and
well, it's projectcamelotportal.com. Also, I think projectcamelot.tv should work to take you to the same place. And then if you look across the top are all my social media places where I publish on a regular basis. And I do at least 3 shows, live shows, a week where I interview someone or someone interviews me. And those all go on my Rumble channel. So, I have literally thousands and thousands after 20 years of work of interviews. Okay. So, and tons of articles as well. So, you can actually lose a whole weekend, if not your whole life, just watching Camelot. But, I don't recommend that. But nonetheless, I'm just saying, I didn't plan to have such a huge library of material, but it's just what worked out, the way it ended up for me, because my skill set matched the times of investigation. And I have a fascination with finding out the truth, even to this day. So I think it's inspiring to do so. I think it's, makes your life more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, we have been taught to be crappy extras on the side instead of being the star of our own show. And you were in Hollywood, and you saw what was going on there with the good old boys club, the club, right?
Right.
And you became the star of your own show. And this is what we all need to do, right? Because it's going to be more interesting. It's not like, what was that movie? John Wick. The people on the sides are dancing in the clubs. They're just mindlessly taking photos of themselves, and people are dying, and there's this whole Illuminati world, and they pay with real gold. But all the extras on the side are just taking pictures, walking by with their fancy shoes and their umbrellas. And that used to be me. Just like everyone else doing what everyone else is doing.
One can make assumptions about people, but you're not watching them 24/7, just because you meet someone briefly in a club. There's nothing wrong with, in theory, dancing in a club can be a nice, social outing. But if that's all you do in your life, I mean, no one does just that all their life. But, there are people that are actually souls. Okay. They're souls. They're not just, a physical body. You are a soul, and you have eternal life if you want it. And basically, you have been here before. In 99.9% of the time, you are actually been here before, reincarnated. And so this is not really new to you. Now, people are sort of in denial, and they try to deny the truths to themselves, and they suffer for it. So, it's just a matter of, this is a great time, because there's energy coming into the earth that is actually said to be assisting with this wake-up call that all of the earth is going through. So it's not good enough, for parents to lie to their children anymore,
Right.
and teachers to lie to their students, and it goes on from there, right? So, the truth is what's actually thrilling and exciting, and also everyone wants to know it. That's a fact.
Yes, it is. Well, you know what? Thank you for wrapping it up in a positive way. I do believe that and know that we are on a positive timeline, that people are waking up, and the Schumann resonance has been off the charts. That's not happened in our history. So it's just a matter of enough people waking up. And like you said, as the truth goes out into the ethers, people in one way or another are going to be woken up out of this false matrix that's been cast upon us for a very long time. So thank you again, Kerry. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of your work. I appreciate that you've been the star of your own show, and talking to you out there, people. Be the star of your own show. Find out what you love and are passionate about, and make it your reality. You don't have to sit there 9 to 5 at a desk job just to have an hour to eat, just to watch a show, to sleep, and do it all over again. And then next thing you know, you're waking up at 65 and retiring, all broken down. Let's start getting the truth out into the forefront. Start taking better care of yourself. Eat better foods, drink filtered water, get sunlight, put your feet in the dirt, all of that good stuff. And we're moving towards a new earth, and it's going to be glorious. We still have work to do. There's still more people to wake up. It's happening. No matter what, it's happening. So anyways, Kerry, thank you again. And to all of you, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share. Let's get the truth out together and become part of a movement to save the world. This is Kat Espinda, and I've got Kerry Cassidy here, and we are signing out.
Thank you. Okay, take care.